What's going on, guys? Photon HYPERNOVA releases in just a couple weeks, and the creator reveals have started. We pretty much know the entire set now, with the exception of a few starlights. And of course, with the set reveal comes the TCG exclusives. And there is a TCG exclusive archetype known as the Gold Pride archetype. We saw a teaser for it a while back with the sneak preview card. We're going to take a look at that whole archetype in a separate video. But in this video, we're going to take a look at everything else that will be TCG exclusive in this set. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. I struggled to do that intro for some reason. It took me a couple of takes and it still wasn't perfect, but we're going to roll with it. Thank you guys for checking out the video. If you do enjoy the conversation, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of these exclusives. I think some of them are pretty lackluster, but there's a few with a bit of potential. And of course, if you want to stay notified when new videos are uploaded, click that bell icon to do so. But as I mentioned in the intro, we are looking at Photon HYPERNOVA's TCG exclusives, and we are starting off with I'm already struggling. DIABOLANTIS, the Menacing Mantis. That rhymes. Say that 5 times fast. It is a level 8 dark synchro insect, which is somewhat unique, although we have, gotten scattered insect and plant support over the years with Trap Trick, Structure Deck, of course, on the way. And this card says 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters. If this card is synchro summoned, you can send insect and or plant monsters from your deck to the graveyard equal to the number of non-tuners used for its synchro summon. If you control this synchro summon card, you can target 1 insect or plant monster you control, treat it as a tuner until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. That first effect screams powerful on paper, and in a format where Glow Up Bulb and Dandelion were legal, you would see a crazy amount of combo potential. But of course, those cards are not legal, and as a result, this card's, big sort of, big plays that come to mind right off the bat are definitely hindered. But there are plenty of valid targets you can send off this, and being a level 8, you could technically, if you use a level 2 tuner and then 2 3s, that might be the easiest way to make this work, or a 4 and a 4. You can probably get up to 2 mils relatively easily with this, and there are decent plants and insects that trigger off of being engraved, especially just thinking of a couple of, more recent cards, the B-Trooper engine playing things like Goki Pole at one point. Definitely an insect that's solid to send from deck to grave. So there are some valid targets for this. It's kind of neat, but it's definitely pack filler. I just don't think any of the insect or plant strategies that currently see any play are very synchro heavy. You have decks like Rika that have had a rogue top here and there, but they're not super synchro heavy, and they certainly, don't play enough cards to really maximize what this card can do. Obviously, if it was, 2012 and this card came out in decks like Quick Draw Dandy, it would be absolutely busted. But as is, I think it's just pack filler with some cool artwork. I would say it definitely does have, a bit of future potential depending on other things that get released. But for now, it's sort of just I don't know, kind of look at it, skip it, do what you want with it. It ain't blowing me away. Next up, we continue with the pack filler with Xyz Align. This is a quick play spell that says declare a level from 1 to 12, then target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including 1 monster you control. They become the declared level until the end of this turn. Also, for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck, except monsters with the same type as the targeted monsters. So, I like this just because it's kind of cute in its application, but it doesn't do anything for you, and it's relatively terrible. I was thinking of some cheesy combos that used to let you, use your opponent's monsters to synchro summon or something, and maybe weird, that. There's, that one weird Speedroid card that does that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I think it's Speedroid Malicious Magnet. But not only is that a non-optimal strategy, it is just nowhere near good enough to be relevant at all in today's game. Of course, being able to change the levels of opponent's monsters or an opponent's monster could, in theory, disrupt a deck like Sprite. Maybe, but it's a really, really big stretch to even suggest that would be a useful application, especially because you can only target at most 1 opponent's monster, so it's not like you can target 2 and disrupt some type of Mistress of the Yokai or and the band played on or something like that. Basically, there are way better cards that do what this card does, and I don't think this is worth spending too much time on. And that extra deck restriction is just kind of completely unnecessary when you consider the fact that there are cards that modify levels that are a lot more rewarding than this one. But I guess if I had to say something positive about it, it's searchable by Generation Force. Yeah, I don't know. This one's not doing it for me either, which falls in line with what we've typically come to expect from these TCG exclusives. Let's move on to the next one. I swear sometimes they do these names on purpose just because then people have to read them and suffer. But this is ORPHEBULL, the Harmonious Bullfighter Bard. And the name is probably the most interesting thing about it. But let's read the effect because that's what we're here to do. It is a level 8 Light Beast Warrior, which is a unique typing. I don't think there's too many Light Beast Warriors outside of like the Bujin archetype. This cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 2 light and 2 dark monsters from your hand and or graveyard, except this card. If summoned this way, this card gains 1,000 attack for each monster banished from your hand for its summon, and can attack a number of times equal to the number of monsters banished from the graveyard for its summon. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, you can banish that opponent's monster. Wow. All right, so it is pretty rough, but it's cute, I suppose, in the sense that, like, it can get beefy quick, but you kind of have to get rid of cards from the hand to make that work, and there are just way better Chaos targets that don't require 4 monsters to be able to play. Maybe if this could revive itself from the graveyard as well, instead of just being summoned from the hand, you would be looking at something that could have, you know, a unique application in, like, 60-card Burning Abyss type decks or whatever, but as it is, again, it's an ultra rare, which is a bit unfortunate because I just don't think it's warranting an ultra rare slot in this set at all. But, you know, the number of monsters during each battle phase, I guess, could get pretty strong. Like, you could take a cheesy OTK with this if your opponent has, like, a few monsters out and you make this at, like, 5k and then you just run stuff over. But I mean, we're talking about so many things having to go right. It has no built-in protection of any kind, so you just put it out and, like, the smallest thing can get over it. It's, you know, it's a card that you could look at and say, like, had it released a decade ago, maybe it would have been good, but modern Yu-Gi-Oh's been power crept to the point of this just being obsolete and another pack filler ultra. I do like the fact that it's a Beast Warrior, so I guess, you know, there's potential synergy in the future, but I can't even think off the top of my head of what it would take to make this card playable. It's certainly not something that would be playable now. You guys thought I was joking about the names being absolutely ridiculous, but we've got Made to Order Mermaid Outfit Outfitter. Again, why? Who asked for this? This card's actually not completely terrible, though. It's a normal spell. It says target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard. Banish it, then you can add 1 card from your deck to your hand with the same name as that banished card. You can only activate 1 Made-to-Order Mermaid Outfitter per turn. So this is super rare, and it's actually kind of cute in, like, certain mirror matches, and generally if you're just playing, like, a lot of hand traps. I don't know that a lot of decks are going to choose to utilize this over, like, the Bestial package in terms of graveyard removal or even, like, Called by the Grave, although that's at 1. Obviously, if it was a quick play spell, I think it would have a lot more application. But the fact that you get the search does give it, you know, at least that second glance to say, all right, well, I'm getting rid of an opponent's problem card, but I'm also able to get something of my own. And a lot of decks are playing, you know, multiples of, you know, you're seeing Kashtira Fenrir in a lot of decks. You know, you're seeing a lot of tier mirror matches. You're seeing things of that nature. So I guess you can look at this on paper and say that it does have a decent effect, but I just don't know if it's going to be worth the space, especially because it is reliant on the opponent actually having those cards engraved. So in some cases, it's definitely a card that could benefit you, but I have to wonder whether or not other cards would do whatever it's going to do better. But I would say keep an eye on this one. Out of all the exclusives, I do think this one has the most potential as a, like, you know, a cute tech option at some point, but I could see people trying this out, finding it not really working as well as they hoped, and then just kind of moving on to something else, especially because a lot of things that you're going to search off this, unless you're playing in a mirror match, are probably not going to come in handy during the turn that you search them, meaning they're going to be probably, you're going to be waiting a while to get any real returns off of this, and the game state moves so fast nowadays that this is not going to be your optimal play. And finally, I'm a little bit excited about this one. If you guys know, I love the fish archetype in the shark decks. MINAIRUKA, which is basically a level 4 water fish that says when a water monster's effect is activated, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. We'll take another extender. The deck has so many, but having a bunch with different names is definitely never bad. You can banish 1 face-up fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster you control, and then target 1 face-up card on the field. Negate its effects until the end of your opponent's turn. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. This is really fucking cool for sharks. Obviously, that deck is nowhere near even the rogue strategy at this point like it was a couple of years back, but being able to banish a monster to shut off a floodgate or to shut off an opponent's monster that might be oppressive, at worst you're forcing a negate. And I remember from playing sharks, especially with cards like Xyz Remora, there were often times where you ended with 1 additional combo piece on the board that you couldn't get over. Maybe Remora reviving 2, you just had an odd number of monsters. You could stack extra materials onto a Zeus, but here you also have the potential of getting rid of something to shut off a problem card and help to push the strategy. So I actually think this is a really cute card, both literally and in application. The trigger effect being that an opponent's that a water monster effect has to activate is not that hard to pull off in a deck where you're doing a billion things. It doesn't say on the field, so you can trigger it with Remora, you can trigger it with Lantern, Buzzsaw. I mean, there's so many different water fish monsters that do that. And honestly, you could technically use this in other decks, too. It's not locked exclusively to fish. I mean, decks like Mermaid will come to mind. That deck feels like a deck that's always like 2 or 3 really, really good cards away from having a chance to be viable. But this certainly is not going to push that over the top. I just mean, on the surface, it doesn't look that, you know, incredible, but it does feel like it's a really solid combo piece for those decks, and actually makes me want to try and throw that deck back together and see if maybe I could make something work with it. So stay tuned on that. But MINAIRUKA is actually pretty cool, and it's my favorite of the reveals, but I do think overall these are pretty underwhelming. It seems to be the case nowadays with TCG exclusives, unless you get the outliers like a Plunder Patrol or your one-off card, but Photon HYPERNOVA has not really broken that trend, so MINAIRUKA looks pretty cool, but overall I do think the made to order is probably going to be the one with the most potential here, and even that I'm kind of on the fence about. That's going to do it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think. You think these cards are maybe something I'm overlooking, or you planning on cracking open some Photon HYPERNOVA? I look forward to seeing what you guys said. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.